The program today will focus on the clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. Do the Cayce readings agree or conflict with Orthodox Christian belief? My guests are Harvey Heumann, president of the Electrodynamics Corporation and a trustee of the Association of Research and Enlightenment, the foundation at Virginia Beach. Esther Griffiths, a retired school teacher and a member of the ARE speaking team. And Carol Sharp, a member of the ARE study group.
Now, folks, first of all, I'd like to know a little bit about who Edgar Cayce is. Why is he important?
Edgar Cayce is considered one of the great clairvoyants of the 20th century. Cayce was able to put himself into a peculiar type sleep state, and in that state he could see and diagnose the illness of a patient hundreds of miles away. And the patient, for the most part, was completely unknown to Cayce except by name and address. He described the room the patient was in, what the patient was doing at exactly that time, describe his appearance and his clothing. Furthermore, he could describe in exact medical terms every part of his body and then pinpoint the exact nature and seriousness of the disease. He would then prescribe a medical treatment that, if carefully followed, would result in a cure. There are literally thousands of these documented histories. These were called physical readings. And if those treatments that he suggested were followed meticulously, they would be dramatic results. He didn't heal per se, but he gave medical prescriptions that people could take to doctors, and doctors would then perform or carry out the treatments.
Harvey, define what a clairvoyant is for our people.
Yes, a clairvoyant is simply seeing something. This is quite common terminology. It's simply seeing something at a distance beyond the physical senses, you see.
Okay.
We have perceptions far beyond these five physical senses. A clairvoyant is simply seeing something that's not seen by physical eyes or felt or heard, you see.
Okay. What was the background of Edgar Cayce?
As a boy, he had these remarkable experiences of being able to see things. He'd have playmates that nobody else saw. And
what do you mean he had playmates nobody else saw?
Invisible playmates. He could see people that nobody else could see. And friendly people, he'd play with them. And this was a remarkable kind of a thing to happen to a young boy.
Did he come from a rich family, poor family?
He came from a very poor family. He was born in 1877 in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And dropped out as a 7th grade student. Couldn't spell very well, and his father kept after him that he wasn't doing his homework. And one day he had to stay after school because he couldn't spell a particular word. And he got so sleepy he kind of fell asleep just momentarily, and a voice came to him and he said, "I'll help you." And he got the idea, got from the source that came to him, whether it was an angel or what have you, that if he would sleep on that book, he would have no problem. He'd know all the answers, and indeed he did, and became the brightest boy in school, spelling and otherwise.
When did he start giving these readings?
When at about age 20, 21.
What was it? How did he get into it?
One of the things that brought it about, he had an accident once. He was hit in the back of the head by a baseball. Mm-hmm. And immediately he said, "Put a poultice on the back of my head." And I've forgotten just what the poultice consisted of. And they followed that, and he had a remarkable recovery. So from that, other people would come to him, and he would give readings. They'd put himself to sleep, give readings, and tell him what to do. And if they followed those instructions, of course, he would be healed.
Came out of a Presbyterian fundamentalist background.
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And that, as you say, he wasn't a real educated man when he would just talk with you naturally. He would put himself into this sleep or trance state.
Right.
And what would actually take place then? I've read that another voice would actually speak out of Cayce. Is that true?
Occasionally.
Not another voice. Go ahead.
Occasionally that was true. almost at all times during the readings, it was, and this is personal opinion, Mr. Cayce's unconscious mind which was causing his voice to come out, to speak. On a few occasions, other voices did come through him and claimed to be other individuals. From one who claimed to be an angel to one who claimed to be a discarnate entity, a person no longer living.
But every once in a while he'd get the idea that, look, I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know what this power is that I've got. He said, I don't want anything to do with it, but it kept persisting, and if he didn't follow it, so finally he and his wife decided, look, this is my work to help other people. And this is how it all began. And there were 14,000 readings given. Of those, nearly 9,000 were physical readings helping people who were sick.
Now, those readings, we have 14,000 readings. Have they been compiled into some books?
They are not per se. Those readings, however, are all in the archives of the Edgar Cayce Foundation of Virginia Beach, Virginia. Okay. Now, from those readings, then, there have been some 70 books written about those readings of various segments, the physical readings, all kinds of things that he came through.
Do you, in the movement, do people need to interpret those, or are they self-interpreting?
They're pretty self-interpreting, yes.
Okay.
Pretty self-interpreting.
Now, do those form the basis for what is called the study groups?
That's correct.
Okay, and so when you get together in a study group, you meet in homes, and what happens in the study groups?
I'll let Carol answer that, but let me just say this. The study group readings, he gave a series of readings to a study group that was formed with he part of the member, and he gave readings to that study group and answers to questions. You can tell them how those evolved.
I think it's interesting on this study group number 1, Virginia Beach, Virginia, which was the first study group. They asked Mr. Cayce to teach them how to become psychic. This is how the first study group began.
Would he teach them in the trance state or in natural
state?
state?
No, this was to be done from the trance state.
Okay, so he taught them actually when he would be into this trance.
But yes, but what evolved were chapters in a book such as cooperation, patience, love, know thyself, just practical everyday things. At the end of the 12 or 13 years that Study Group 1 was working on Book 1 of the Search for God books, some of them probably did develop some types of psychic abilities, but they had really forgotten about this and the desire to do this in the process of working with these books and with these concepts.
I think another thing that's interesting, one statement he made, he said, you cannot become psychic unless you evolve spiritually. That's the secret. There's no way you can teach people to become psychic. Let's talk a little bit about what Cayce taught about certain topics and so on.
It seems like Cayce had one state of mind, naturally, that when he, his Bible background, his fundamentalist background,